Let's take a break. Coffee breakers. Maraming cafecito.
I'm glad you're able to join me on another coffee break. So grab yourself a hot cup of coffee and have a seat. Today's topic is communication. Let's do this. All right. So, we ask ourselves, is it possible to live life and not communicate? Think about that. Is it possible to live life and not communicate? Well, actually, it's impossible not to communicate. We communicate constantly at home, at school, at work, with parents, children, siblings, homies, friends, co-workers, strangers, etc., etc., etc. Even when we choose not to communicate, for example, you're giving somebody the silent treatment, you're still communicating your feelings by your actions. Right, so you're using your mannerisms, you're using your body language to communicate. So I think before we get fully engaged and started, I always look to define what it is that we're looking to discuss. What's communication? How do we define communication? Very simply, communication is the process of exchanging thoughts, messages, or information between two or more people, right? And you need, of course, two or more people in order for that communication process to take place. And we'll talk about that process as well. And of course, we want to make sure that you have what's called effective communication in order for your message to get across. It's very easy to communicate effectively, but things can definitely go wrong, right? There's certain criteria that needs to be met, certain steps that you need to take to ensure that you're communicating effectively. I think the most important one that everyone has an issue with it, but I think when you're learning to communicate, when you're learning to socialize, this is probably the most difficult one because it's intimidating. But you need to practice it, whether it's with your camera, you need to practice it with people that you're communicating with. Eye contact, right, is one of those things that can be very intimidating because you don't want to let someone think that you're mad dog, or whatever, stigmas associated with that. But part of that criteria in effective communication is making sure that you are having constant eye contact with the person you are communicating with, or if it's a general audience in a group setting, that you're having eye contact with most, if not all, participants or the students, whoever you're dealing with. Part of the communication process and what's essential for you to effectively communicate is your active listening skills. Listening is, I think, one of the highest priority skills that needs to be learned, because you first must learn to listen before you can speak. At least, I think. And then, of course, with part of the communication skills, when communication is taking place, you must learn how to respond appropriately and be able to provide feedback, right? So that the message that is intended for the listener is being received as you had planned out, right? And that they are able to acknowledge the fact that they learned something from you, and hopefully you were able to teach something or share something or give feedback to someone effectively. It's always important, with responding and giving feedback and sending a message, that it's always a clear message. Always be very, very specific to what it is that you're trying to say or do, so that it doesn't become a blurry message. It doesn't have multi branches, or assumptions within the message that you're trying to send, which is very, very important. In looking at communication, there's different types of communication, right? And I think I alluded to that at the beginning when it came to asking the question, is it possible not to communicate in living life, right, in the world? And the answer was no. And I mentioned mannerisms, I mentioned body language, which feeds into the types of communication. So the most simple type of communication that we all know is verbal communication, right? And verbal communication includes anything that uses a spoken word, speeches, conversations, language, even your tone of voice, right? Raising or lowering the tone of voice is part of what we call, or what is called, verbal communication. Another type of communication is written communication. In written communication, you have letters, books, texts, right? Anything where you have to actually write it out or type it out, that's considered written communication. You also have nonverbal communication, right? And the nonverbal is the body language, the gestures, right? I'm using my hands to talk in order to emphasize a point, so you can make either things look big or make things look small with the use of your gestures. Eye contact is very important. Posture, right? The way you're seated, the way you're standing, the way you're carrying your body. It's all part of that verbal communication. If you're conducting a training, doing a speech, whatever it is, and you're slouched, and what message does that send? That sends it, you really don't care, you don't want to be there, right? But proud posture, tall posture shows that you respect your audience, you respect your crowd, and you're there to do the job. Dress, even though I'm here virtually in a little more relaxed setting, make sure that if you are, whether it's doing a speech, doing a training, conducting a classroom, that you're properly dressed for the scenario. Normally, when I conduct even a virtual class, whether it's on Zoom, on WebEx, on Teams, whatever it is, you probably wouldn't wear a tie if you're not comfortable with it, or if you want to be most comfortable, wear a dress shirt and make sure that you're ready and visibly present, right? Symbols, any symbols that you might be using in your communication, are part of the nonverbal communication strata. So I use symbols in the classroom or in certain settings to remind me to do certain things as part of the process, to make sure that I'm relaying my message, that I'm asking for feedback, and that I'm clarifying any misunderstandings or anything that wasn't quite understood during that process, right? But based on your own body language, you can tell what's going on in certain scenarios, in certain situations, right? So as an example, if you're out with your lady, or you're on a hot date, and you're chilling, you're doing your thing and comfortable, right? Watching TV and texting and doing what you do, and your girl is sitting on the sofa, but she's right, she's doing this, and then she's looking over here, like, right? What might she be thinking at that moment, or feeling at that moment, right? She's ignoring you, she's got her arm crossed. Well, it seems to me she's kind of upset that you're on your phone and not giving her the attention, and that's because her body language is sending that message, and I think it's fairly clear. So at that point, drop what you're doing, give the attention that's needed, and you'll be all right. But that's just a very quick scenario. And so you're going to find yourself in many situations, whether it's at home, at school, at work, where there's a lot of nonverbal communication taking place, and you need to get caught up in it and make sure that you recognize that, because the body language is going to tell you a lot about either how somebody is feeling or what someone is thinking, right? You get that look from your mom or your pops, it's like, right, then that you chill, you got to do what they ask. So aside from the different types of communication, we have levels of communication, right? So there's different levels in communicating a message or an idea, or whatever it is that you're trying to share. Superficial, which is more informational type communication, and that involves small talk, weather, where you live, how's your day, that kind of thing. It's all really just chit chat, right? Superficial. We also have personal communication, which is more emotional, and that's communication where you're sharing your feelings, you're sharing your beliefs, you're sharing your personal opinions, you're sharing your morals, right? Because it's more personal, it's more emotional, right? You're injecting your emotions into it. And the third level of communication could be validating communication or rational communication, and that's communication that accepts responsibility, accountability. You're strengthening relationships, you're encouraging someone, you're motivating someone. So it's all inclusive when it comes to positive encouragement, sincere compliments, all that stuff. So in the three levels of communications, you can be superficial, you can be personal, or you can be validating, right? So keep that in mind as well in your three levels of communication, along with your various communication styles. There are things that you should be doing when you're communicating. So you should be very, very importantly, and I shared this at the get-go, is listening. Listening, that's the most important part of any communication that's taking place, right? Look the person in the eyes, right? Eye contact. Ask questions. If there's something that's shared that you don't understand, make sure that you're asking questions to get clarification, so that you can completely understand what was being said or what the intent of the message was, if you're not clear already. As part of listening and someone is sharing, hear the person out, allow them to completely get their message across, and then speak, right? So hear a person out. Try to resist distractions, which is going to be hard for a lot of you. I did it, and I'm sure that you heard it or noticed it as part of the process, right? The beeping, and that's the phone, right? But you didn't see me reach out for the phone and wonder who it is or what it is. They can wait, right? So resist distractions. It could be your phone. It could be someone at the door, that kind of thing. A few seconds won't hurt them, right? And always be open-minded. I think when it comes to sharing information, whether it's receiving or giving, be open-minded, and then assume responsibility in a dialogue, and take responsibility for what you're saying and for what's being said, and you should have no issues either giving or receiving information, and it should go pretty smoothly. And of course, along with that goes things that you shouldn't be doing, right, during communication, wherever that might be. Never interrupt. Someone is sharing, don't interrupt them. Unless it's necessary, right? But allow them to finish their thought. So try not to, as hard as you can, not to interrupt them if that's an issue. Don't raise your voice or yell, because inadvertently you're sending a message that either you're upset, or that's the only way you know how to communicate, and you can't remain calm. Make sure that you're not calling people names or labeling them, or just finding ways to not take responsibility. Misplaced blame. Don't blame others, right? In a conversation, it's not always because of others. Sometimes it's because of yourself, but you have to be able to recognize that. So don't play the blame game when you're communicating. Don't force anyone to accept anything or do anything when you're communicating, or threaten them in any way to do or say or what have you, or accept when you're communicating. unless it's part of your process. Don't laugh at people when they share something, an idea, a thought, because it might be funny to you, but in all seriousness, that's what this person might have thought. And they're just sharing, and it's probably something that's very simple-minded to you, but people are learning from you, and it's important not to laugh at their level or understanding at any point in time. So make sure that you're not laughing at people, unless you're laughing with them, right? Unless it's part of the process, engaging a group, telling a joke, icebreakers, that kind of thing. And don't always assume that you understand what people are trying to tell you. Make sure that you ask for clarifying, or you give clarifying points and say, oh, what I'm getting from you is this, right? And then if you're not understanding it fully, they'll be able to correct it or share it in a different way, so that you can completely understand what they're trying to share with you. Never make snap judgments about people or things, right? Don't say, oh, well, boom, boom. I know that because boom, boom, boom. No, sometimes it's not as simple as that, right? So don't make snap judgments. Always listen fully, and gather all of your information before speaking. And again, it goes to listening before speaking. And never offer advice when you're not asked for it, right? Only give advice when it is sought, when it is, when someone is asking you for advice. So only share that during that time. So, again, I think communication skills are going to be used in all aspects of your life, whether it's in your relationships, you're dating, you're married, hanging out with friends, even as a parent or as a child, you'll be communicating and constantly communicating your work situations with your customers, your employees, your employers, clients, whatever. As a student in school, right? Whether you're in high school, in college, in university, with teachers, with other, fellow students and school personnel, you will be communicating and using communication. So make effective communication skills part of your necessary life skills, because if you don't, there's going to be a lot of misunderstandings. You're going to have issues, right? Because if you're not very clear on how you're communicating your message, there's going to be a lot of misunderstandings, and you're going to have a hard time either advocating for yourself, advocating for others, and getting your message across, most importantly. So today's coffee break was very quick. It was on effective communication. Hope you learned something. We'll see you next time. And that's it for today. Make sure that you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share this video, get back to work or whatever it is that you were doing, and we'll see you on the next coffee break. Should you want a workshop on this topic, feel free to get at me.